am your host, Richard Lewis, on the analysis desk, and we're going to pick this game apart right now, and looking forward to it. There's Hiko, big smiles. Wasn't like that yesterday, I can tell you that for nothing. Anyway, so as I said, I'm your host, Richard Lewis, and with me today, no Thorin at the moment. We have upgraded Yanko to expert. He's not really been doing too well. But, you know, he's getting there. We're teaching him. How are you so far?
Right.
Enjoy the game?
Yeah, the game was pretty straightforward, as we predicted, more or less, and looking good for Liquid going into...
Looking better than yesterday, anyway. And also joining me, we've got, of course, Vendetta from Room on Fire, and Maniac from Maniac. We need to get you employed somewhere.
From France, of course.
Yeah, from
France.
Switzerland.
Oh, no,
I know.
Don't get that wrong. I'm really upset.
Your reference point, not there.
Why?
Not on point.
Why didn't I get the
Didn't you see the announcement?
What?
Semler was French, Maniac was French.
Really? Did DreamHack do that?
It was a joke, Richard.
Oh, I can never tell you. It's that Serbian deadpan that was the joke. All right, McBain. Anyway, did you enjoy the game, guys?
Yeah, as Yanko said, it was pretty much what we were expecting. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're going to talk a bit later, of course, but too many slacks to CT, I guess.
Yeah.
Early rotations, Liquid taking advantages of it. So pretty much what we expected.
Yeah, well, yeah, they really play the fiddle with Legacy on Cobblestone. I think Legacy did a better job on Cash. Probably, you know, as we were told, that's probably one of their strongest maps. So it's good to see them have a pretty decent showing. I think they can still go away from this event with their heads held high.
I think that's the key thing to take from this. Obviously, Legacy were massive underdogs. They gave a good account of themselves against Virtus Pro. Don't let the 16-0 in isolation fool you. Team Liquid have had some very good results. They're becoming a more and more experienced international team. So I agree. I think Legacy can be proud. But let's rewind. Let's go back to the beginning of the series, Cobblestone. I was surprised to see Legacy pick this into Team Liquid. I think it was confident. And as it happened, Team Liquid started out strong and didn't really look back. So let's just talk about that.
I feel it was similar to the NIP Fnatic game we had yesterday, considering how the economy went in this. Yeah. Probably the whole best of three, especially on Cobble. Liquid just had control of the economy from the start. Whenever Legacy would win a round, Team Liquid will win the following round, resetting their money system. And you know, when that happens on a regular basis, it's much more difficult to win a map and a whole series.
Yeah, especially on a map like Cobble, where you're on the CT side, you kind of need nades to slow people down. And we saw Liquid, you know, many times managed to abuse the fact that Legacy over-rotated, so they would be able to block off rotations whenever they decided to commit to a bomb site. And at that point, Legacy already being down on money, not having that much nades, they have to expend pretty much everything they have at the beginning of rounds. They're completely screwed when it comes to the retake. And yeah, Liquid just played a really well T side, and I think it's unfortunate for Legacy that they didn't get the T start. I think they would have been better off starting on T and just kind of getting into the flow of things before they really got into the game. But well, I guess we kind of expected that with Cobble being the map pick.
I also think they forced a bit too much, Legacy, especially we saw it on Cash. We talked
Cash
about it backstage. They were up 4-3 after initially being down 3-0, and then they decided to force basically for 2 rounds in a row.
It was like a scout, 2 Famouses.
Yeah, it was a really weird buy, especially that they weren't pressuring Liquid's economy anymore at that point, and it ended up being an 8-7 half for Liquid. So if they didn't force as much, maybe they could have gotten a couple more rounds, make it a bit closer towards the end.
Let's talk about Hiko Maniac. He was one of the people that you highlighted, and we've got some highlights of his play here. So what did you think of his performance?
Well, it was pretty much what we expected. I mean, very good performance from Hiko, mostly because of the fact that Liquid forced Legacy to over-rotate a lot of times, so that created a lot of space for Hiko. Obviously, a very good 5-7 player here, getting like 4 kills. Some pretty impressive showing from him.
Here we can see a bit of an experience of Legacy as well. This is an anti-Hiko round. Hiko manages to take down 4 players, got an MP7 kill as well, gets a lot of bang for himself, and that's the problem. You see, even if you win a round, but you're down to 1 man, you lose the first gun round, you lose it, you're forced on an eco. That's what happened on Cash as well. As I said, they won 4 consecutive rounds, they lose the next round, they're forced to go on an eco. So it's what happens most of the time with these, lower tier teams. They struggle to close out rounds cleanly when they have the opportunity. They lose a couple of extra guys that they probably wouldn't have to, and yeah, it really has a great impact on the economy. And also we've seen Nitro had an amazing series.
Yeah. That was the other player I wanted to talk about after Spencer. It was, we talked about the importance of Nitro getting the team firing, and Elysian as well plays that part. But Nitro really sort of came alive again, and not just in fragging. He was having impact kills as well throughout the series.
Yeah, definitely. You also made a good point in the pre-show that in order for Hiko as a lurker or Fugly, depending on the map and everything, in order for them to be able to do their job, accordingly, they need for those entry fraggers, to create the openings for them to be proficient in their lurker role.
Yeah, there is something I want to point out about the first side of Cobblestone, because I think it's a very difficult map to play as a city as an unexperienced team. So what happened is that Legacy started with a very strong B defense, and that makes sense because most of the plays are on B.
Yeah.
So they started with this double setup on plateau with one guy close to the drop zone. But what happened is that Liquid established dominance over the A side. And that was quite clear that Legacy could not really control that A side. So we had this round where Raz had the first open kill sideway with AVP, but Liquid just realized it and crushed through the middle, and Nitro find himself behind 3 players because their rotation is too late. So I think Liquid played it very clever. First, established dominance on A, and then when Legacy realized that the A is actually falling apart, they started to be a little bit less on B, and then Liquid went back to the B side. So this was very well organized and very logical T side from Liquid, in my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, just some final thoughts about Cobblestone. I mean, what do we feel about Team Liquid and this map being very much, one that they can sort of rely on? Is it a map that you don't necessarily want to play Team Liquid on moving forward throughout the tournament?
Yeah, I think that should be one of your target bans if you're playing against Liquid. Obviously, it depends on what kind of team you are. If you, like Yenko pointed out, if you're the type of team that vetoes to your own strengths or the other team's weaknesses, all depending. But if I was going up against Liquid, I would try to avoid just a map like Cobble.
The thing is, they're up against VP in their deciding match.
Yes.
They played the exact same map in Cluj. So I would expect them to play that map again, because I don't think that VP is going to ban Cobble. It's one of their strongest maps as well. I think they're pretty confident on it, so it's going to be an exciting matchup for sure later in the day.
Well, let's talk about the second map in this series, which was Cash. And again, I want to put the focus on Nitro. This was a real big performance by him. Sure, maybe Legacy being generous and not top-tier opposition yet, but Nitro did his job and did it well, certainly a lot better than yesterday. He had an amazing T-side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you are such a high-skilled offensive player and you play against a CT that could be a little bit slacking, what happens is that you find yourself with very much more opportunities that you would actually have playing, for example, Fnatic or Envious. So that's this is the best-case scenario for Nitro. He goes against a team with not enough experience, in my perspective, to really stop him, and then he just can use his pure roll skill to roll into the bomb site. So very great performance from him.
It's like the perfect game to kind of feed your ego.
Absolutely.
Because you need to have confidence in yourself if you're going to go up against VP later on in the day. You need to feel confident in your skills. And this is the kind of game where Nitro just thrives.
Absolutely.
So
I think it was clear as well, once he got a few frags under his belt, you could see he was going to go for the cricket score. He was
exactly.
We're going to start playing more aggressive. He started making pushes that maybe aren't characteristic to either him as a player or Team Liquid, actually.
Yeah, he's just going to put it on Legacy to stop him. And if they can't, then he's just going to keep on rolling. So really solid play from him. I think Fugly also had a really good game on Cash. So he came into it later on, and not to get too focused on Liquid, Mitsu, the guy who'd been kind of lackluster for the first couple of games we've seen from Legacy, I think he did a pretty good job on Cash as well. So everybody from Legacy got to kind of show themselves to the public eye, which was nice, but in the end, the story is still on Liquid. I
mean, I suppose if you're one of our friends from Down Under and you were watching this game, and I know we were talking about this backstage specifically, this could have been, I feel, a lot closer than the 16-11. I almost feel it's a bit of a deceptive scoreline in a way, because there were a couple of weird forces. They didn't really get their economy under control, and I think they got eco'd, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, actually,
in the first half.
Yeah, when they were up 4-3, the round that Liquid actually won was maybe a quasi-buy, a couple of tech knives. They went for the B side push, and they won the round there, broke Legacy's economy completely. We talk about it all the time. Counter-Strike is a game of a couple key rounds, decide the course of a match, whether you are going to be forced to go on an eco or you're going to force the opposing team on an eco. I think this game also, like on Cash, we could tell the weaknesses of lower tier teams, that they have a problem adjusting to mid-round situations. Like if they lose mid control, you know, they're just stay passively, play maybe 2 players on A, 2 players on B. You always wanna be the one, you know, taking the game to the opponent. You wanna force them to react to your own moves. You don't wanna just stay, because it allows the terrorists at that point, okay, they figure you out, they know where you are, and then they can just counter your setup, because you know, Liquid is an experienced team. Even though they had a poor showing yesterday, some of the players have been playing CS for a long time. So I think that for them, that's going to be a main focus point if they want to still, you know, continue trying to compete internationally. They're going to try and figure some of those. They're going to try and figure some of that stuff out.
And again, I'll ask you, Maniac. Do you feel there was some poor decision-making on behalf of Legacy, or was this more of a sort of just an out-aiming, you know, being out-experienced, outclassed?
No, I think it really comes down to the lack of experience, definitely, because when we take a look at Legacy's performance in this tournament, of course they lose all maps, but I think it's not that bad. I mean, I saw some very skilled individuals, I saw some good principles, good setups, so that's quite clear they have an idea of what they want to do, and it's pretty close to be the right idea. Yeah. But of course, for a team that doesn't attend that many high-level tournaments, they are always going to find enemies we can like utilize their mistakes and stuff. So pretty promising. I hope that they will be at many other tournaments like this, because if they can just like grab up that experience, I feel like they could do something really. But it came down to the experience for me mainly.
Well, me and Vendetta have talked about this as well. I feel like the Oceanic region could be sort of the next one that does maybe throw up a few surprises, and I put this down to Renegades. You know, it creates an aspirational element. You know, you see a team from your region get picked up by a big organization, move out to America, move out to Las Vegas. Yes, forgive me, they haven't been doing too well since they moved, but you know, give it time, right? Okay. But anyway, obviously, the guys like Immunity and now guys like Legacy, you know, people we've not necessarily seen before in Europe or indeed in NA. They're now like, okay, actually, we can get to these events. If we keep playing, we're going to get noticed. So I think it could be a real breakout region, you know.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's kind of the way. You just need that front pony, right, to lead the charge for your region. And luckily, if you're in Europe, you kind of have that from the get-go. It's already in place. But I think Renegades played a huge part in making Australians and people from New Zealand as well realize that, you know, even though you're on the other side of the planet, you can still be pretty good at the game. Yeah. It's all about dedicating time, and eventually you will have an opportunity, especially with how big the game is getting, that you will actually have a shot at making it to these kind of tournaments, and that's what we're seeing from Legacy.
I think you also need to have more local tournaments. You know, the local scene needs to thrive as well. We had a tournament, Crown tournament, when VP and Cloud9 went to Australia to compete.
And Immunity played very well.
Yeah, so it gives a chance for, you know, the local teams to improve, to prosper, and then maybe qualify for one of the tournaments like this. So we'll have to wait and see.
So from one emerging region to one underperforming region, Team Liquid have finally got some rounds on the board. They've put the Gremlins to bed. Obviously, we now know they've got to play Virtus Pro. How do we feel about their tournament future?
Well, I wouldn't write them off. As I said previously, I think that Liquid is a strong team with upset potential. VP are certainly the favorites even in that matchup. The way that the way the maps they're probably going to be played, I think it's going to be pretty even as well. So, yeah, it's going to be really difficult for them. I think the VP are the clear favorites, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I see a lot of problems coming Team Liquid's way. It's kind of like waiting for impending doom, right? Because the map pool favors VP. Obviously, Liquid are lucky in the fact that the Instabito train, which is one of VP's strongest maps, but VP doesn't play Dust 2. You're going to end up in a spot where in a best of 3, you're going to have to play Cobble, most likely versus VP, maybe Mirage as well, which VP is really good on. So I don't see Liquid actually getting a single map where they're actually favored to win, and that's an issue. But that's kind of what happens when you play versus a team of VP's caliber. But it's like Janko said, they definitely have upset potential.
Yeah.
It's just that it's not that big.
Yeah.
And also the best of 3 format, it limits this kind of potential of upset. I mean, definitely Virtus.pro are the favorites. Also, we have to think that this was kind of an easy match for Liquid. They were always in control of what's happening. Even though they began twice on the hard side, they had complete control over the game, even though Legacy made kind of a comeback on Cash. But still, Liquid always in control. That's not going to be the case against Virtus.pro. They're going to be thrown in that situation where they are like beaten up to the ground and they have to pick themselves up and go back into the game. And we know that Liquid could be struggling when they are put down on the ground. So that is going to be definitely a big challenge for them.
I do think it's a good sign that Nitro had a great game. So if he can repeat that performance as we were talking about it here, gives a lot of room to his other teammates. So they could certainly put up a good fight. Last time they played, it was a 19-17. I mean, with the 2 complete rosters, it was a 19-17 game. So we'll see.
We will see. Anyway, thanks a lot for your thoughts, gentlemen. Pleasure to talk to you as always, and we'll be back a little bit later in the day. And obviously, when we do come back, we're going to have the next game, which is going to be Envious versus Luminosity. Just before we go to that, we're going to take a look at the bracket, actually. Sorry, that's my bad. You can see what that result means. So confirmation of Team Liquid there beating Legacy. And that means they get Virtus.pro as a reward. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bracket, there is confirmation of the games that we are going to have coming up for you. Envious versus Luminosity. The winner of that will be going to play NIP, who, of course, have already beat Envious so far this tournament. So certainly looking the more interesting half of the tournament. So anyway, now I believe we can go to a break, so I'll say goodbye to you again. And without any further ado, we will take a short break, and when we get back, we are going to have the Envious and Luminosity game, so please don't stray too far.